Do Christians reincarnate? Do Christians reincarnate? Well, of course they do. But in the Christian theology, that is forbidden. It's supposed to be one life, one judgment. We're going to talk about how that fits perfectly fine with the understanding of reincarnation and how it's time to bust these limiting beliefs. We don't have to argue with our church-going relatives, whatever, but we need to set ourselves free. So this is the short version of a long talk that I presented in which I talked about my personal journey, including how I found out about my past lives as a Christian theologian and who they were exactly. So that longer talk you may enjoy. First, check out this shorter talk in which I really want to hit the main bullet points here. I want to help people like myself who needed to set themselves free from the dogma of the Christian church, which became anti-reincarnation for no particular good reason. Frankly, the reason why they did it at the 553 AD, during the Second Council of Constantinople, I'm looking at my notes here, yes, they decided that reincarnation was heresy of some sort, and that writers who had talked about reincarnation were no longer to have a place in the Christian church. Why? We can look at it in various ways, but basically, they seem to feel that if you were focused on just one life and finding salvation with Jesus Christ, that would really motivate you. But in fact, the truth is, if you think you only have one life, then you're like, well, to hell with it. I'm just going to do what I can do. I'm too overwhelmed. Plato, back in Greece, and many others realized that life is just too complex, too amazing, too overwhelming. You need as many lifetimes as you need to really understand how the universe works, to keep improving yourself. So in fact, reincarnation produces more of the ethical development effects, the soul evolution effects of the Christian church's original intentions better than the dogma that they developed. So without further ado, let's get into this a bit. And again, no insult intended to those who really aren't ready for, don't want to consider how reincarnation could fit with the idea of a life following the teachings of Jesus, dying, being resurrected, and having a last judgment. Well, it all fits together. And in fact, what I soon discovered when my past lives came to me was that they are real right now. The idea of sequential reincarnation is also obsolete. So here we are now in the ascension. I'm speaking to you from the year 2025 on a planet Earth in which the ecology is at the brink of collapse, and a lot of people are putting their faith in dictators. But this is a purging of the negativity, the negative ego. So we're going to talk about belief systems, we're going to talk about how to set yourself free, and we're going to talk about how to let go of those that you don't belong with, and how that is very much what Jesus taught. So first of all, yes, I discovered that I was a Christian theologian. It explained a lot of my passions in life, and I became so excited because when you tap into some way of tapping into your soul, there are many ways of tapping into your soul. Lucid dreams, astral travel, out-of-body experiences, mystical meditations, talking with spirit guides, near-death experiences, people who are hypnotized, past life regressions into the afterlife. Dr. Michael Newton pioneered that technique. I talk a lot about these things in my other longer version of this video. The point is that when you tap into your greater transcendent being, it's so amazing. It's so ecstatic. It's so wonderful. Why? Because you see, the human experience is a very focused, belief system-based experience of the potentials of your greater consciousness. You are a dual being, and you need to get used to it. First of all, you are an eternal, infinite being, that in physics they talk about the quantum fields, that how you interact with a quantum field, which is infinite and eternal, which is a little mind-boggling, hard to imagine, but depending on how you interact with a quantum field, you get object-like interactions, you can get objects apparently materialized, but then all these amazing effects happen of like non-locality and so on. So I don't want to get too much into anyone's angle on the spirituality, but yes, life is a spiritual consciousness experience. And then you have the human part of you that pours yourself into a belief system to experience it and have emotional responses, reactions, and then go back into your spiritual awareness. You're meant to cycle very smoothly back and forth. And I talk a lot about this in my classes, because over my lifetime, I have developed a whole spiritual psychology approach, a system I call Inner Selves Mastery. And primarily, it focuses on your relationship with your soul. What is your soul? Your soul is your form of the universe. Every one of us is the entire universe experiencing itself through our perspective. What does that mean? That means that you are backed up by the full power and wisdom and love of the entire universe. Every solution is possible for you. So when you pour yourself into a belief system to have a focused physical-like experience, you can forget your greater being. It's hard to manage both at the same time. It is possible, and that is the point of the ascension. The ascension is when the creator becomes able to live within its own creation. So the human is the part of you is your creation, and the spiritual awareness part of you is the creator, and actually both directions extend further than your current consciousness. You are learning to become more human, and you are learning to become more of the creator. So the creator, the God is great spirit, all that is, whatever you want to call it, that is your heritage. That is where you come from. So every person is their own universe in a multiverse. All of these modern sci-fi kind of ideas of like there are many different worlds. Each person is their own world. See, this is why physical life is a kind of illusion. It's a very useful illusion. It means that there's no solid reality out there. It can change very quickly. The way it changes is that you see the people that come cross your path, and you figure out your connection to them based on your emotional reactions and responses. Your connection is what you need to think about based on seeing that person. That is the law of attraction. There's some reason why everyone is in your life. They're carrying a message to you. Handle that message, and then you don't have to get deep into experiencing more than you like of that person's reality, the way they run their universe. Everyone's running their own universe. We cross paths to give each other ideas. And when you really sort out your own inner universe and have a lot of inner peace, you understand how the universe works, you will be a really happy whole universe in yourself, always getting to know more parts of you, your higher self, your future self, your partner self, your inner child, your inner adolescent, other lifetimes. Oh my gosh, it's a soul, it's a soul festival. It's all these different selves you have to get to know, and they all your selves of your soul fundamentally have the same kind of personality as a creator, what you come into realities to offer to other people. So the more you find inner peace, your own belonging within your own soul, the more you will meet other people who run their universe just as well too. And then you're on parallel paths. Okay, you don't have to have people come in and out of your life and always like letting go of codependent relationships. No, as you develop your positive belief systems and let go of the false negative limiting beliefs, you will become a really happy, healthy universe in yourself. You will share the path with other happy, healthy universes. And what that will look like in the human life is simply having a wonderful, prospering human life, able to know where it is you belong, what communities you thrive in, on a planet where everybody understands basic principles of life cooperation to have a happy, healthy planet. We're not there yet in my current reality. However, the source universe, the multiverse, the wisdom and love that runs the whole multiverse, that connects all the souls in their own universes, that is always present. All the wisdom and love and guidance you ever need is always present. So you don't have to feel that you have to battle other people. Those are the negative belief systems. Negativity is basically focusing on what to get rid of. I don't understand how this fits, but it must be bad. I need to get rid of it. So negativity, there's no end to trying to get rid of things. You never get around to these promises of someday you'll retire if you work hard. Someday if you get rid of all your enemies, you'll have peace. Someday this, someday that. Bull crap, okay? A state of being never changes into another state of being. If you're not happy right now, you're not going to suddenly become happy. You need to find your seeds of happiness, the true beliefs, and build on those. True beliefs are the ones that led through the divine principles of a universe that's always integrating and always a larger context so that everything can fit together and work together. Now, there are beings who are currently running negative beliefs, and they are hurtful, they are destructive. What possible place can they have in creation? Well, the negative beliefs, the good use of negative beliefs is that they're sort of the guardrails, the limits of what you would want to try to believe or do. The beginning of love is to know that you could hurt someone and you choose not to hurt them. So then you explore further into what are the wonderful synergistic ways we can work together. You can love everyone from the right distance. That's what my soul likes to remind me. So the people that you're really compatible with, you have wonderful, intimate, involved lifetimes with. The people who are you see at a distance and they clearly have incompatible beliefs, incompatible lifestyles, they're running their universe in a very different way, let them go. Just learn their lesson, the lesson of having seen them, the message, strengthen your beliefs in contrast, and bless them and let them go. So this is the basic answer to the old question of good and evil. Someday, you don't have to always have good and evil, and the whole idea of battling good and evil, that is negativity in itself. Now, you can get to a world where there's no more good and evil, there's just good and better. Your way is good for you, my way is better for me. So in that context, you can keep integrating your life, following your passion, following your sense of synchronicity, of working with the universe, and you will be given, spoon-fed by your higher self, your greater being, who is beyond this reality. You'll be guided to these amazing discoveries of your soul, your greater being, your greater inspiration and passion, including, for many people, discovering their past lives. So there are religions that are more for past lives than others, and Christianity has really developed an anti-other lifetimes, anti-reincarnation approach. And this is what, since I'm a reincarnated Christian theologian, I need to offer some solutions for those people who need to feel good about themselves, that they're not negatively canceling, getting rid of their church background. See, people go around with so many wounds from religion that I understand they become very anti-religious, but you don't want to be anti-anything. You want to understand how it all fits together. So let me tell you, as a reincarnated Christian theologian, how it all can fit together. Can you hear the rain in the background? Ooh, nice, thunder. All right, get excited here. So when I discovered I was a reincarnated Christian theologian, and a particular name that I talk about in the longer version of this video, and I want to go into all the personal details, because then that sort of begs the question of how did you find that out, and does that make a lot of sense, and am I a good version of so-and-so? But just the general ideas here, that I became so thrilled. I was like, I wanted to let people know who academically study some of my known theologian lifetimes. I mean, just a hint. I mean, they're not really super famous. They tend to be more mystical, poetic, unusually creative theologians. But some people really like them and are very inspired by them. I thought, man, it's going to be the greatest thing. I'm back. My soul is back. They're going to want to talk to me. Nobody wanted to talk to me. And I was very, very hurt by that. So that when you wake up on the spiritual path, you want to somehow integrate this spiritual world, which is so full of love, so full of understanding. Your spirit guides and your soul family, all the parts of your soul, they love you. And then you look into this physical reality where you're crisscrossing paths with all these other people like you and how they're running their lives. And there just isn't the same level of awareness. There can be, there will be, but currently there isn't in my reality. So I became very hurt. Then I had to slowly master belief systems and realize that, well, I simply have my own false, negative, invalidating beliefs that were causing me to feel so hurt and get so stuck on these people that now I can look back and I simply realize, well, they're just following their belief systems, and they're still getting some growth, they're still getting some mileage out of their limiting beliefs. But for me, you know, I'm a bridge too far. They can't talk to me. So I didn't have to take it so personally as I did. So now I want to share with you some of the insights of how reincarnation fits just fine with the essences of Christianity, which are wonderful because it's about Jesus Christ. It's about this particular person who, yes, he was real. Yes, he did those miracles. Yes, he resurrected. Why was his life the way he is? Okay, so the soul-crushing dogmas need to be transcended. That's my mission here. We want to have a world where people are more aware of their souls and your lifetimes may come to you. So what the afterlife really is about, because Christianity, as I see it, Christianity is very focused, because of the wonderful teachings of Jesus, very focused on living a good life in alignment with the source, how the background unconditional love of the universe really works, and thereby being able to make the most conscious, glorious transition into the afterlife. Christianity doesn't even consider what it's like to have spent some time in the afterlife, reached limits of learning there, and be ready to come back for another lifetime. It's simply a bigger picture. It doesn't invalidate. You see, it's negativity to say, well, just because I don't know how this fits, it must be wrong. Let's get rid of it. Okay? Yes, Jesus was an amazing being who taught how to work with the divine unconditional love of the universe. Basically, the universe supports every consciousness to have its own experiences. The universe will trust you and support you based on your belief systems to experience whatever you want. And eventually you will realize, you will wake up yourself to the best beliefs that support you to be a loving person. That's the goal. You know, Jesus said, by their fruits you will know them. In other words, by the results, by the outcomes of people's lifestyles and belief systems, you'll know if they're a loving person or if they're a really nasty, like, negative person. So Jesus taught a lot about how to live with this unconditional love, where you don't judge others. He said, judge not lest you'll be judged. Why? Because every consciousness is with it running its own universe, with its own energy. Your energy is yours, other people's energy is theirs. If you judge, if you pump out a lot of hate and condemnations of other people, that's going to be muddying your own waters. You're going to be hit by that. You know, people who live in glass houses, don't throw rocks, that kind of thing. So the afterlife, let's talk about what the afterlife is really like, and then we'll talk about why Christianity, where certain anti-reincarnation beliefs and passages may even come up. The afterlife, how it really works is, like I said, it already coexists. Everything is here now. Time and space are inventions of the greater consciousness. So yeah, we build these stories. I call it stringing pearls. We build these stories of our lives to be able to focus in a process way, step by step, looking through how things work beautifully together. And the goal of any process, the goal of any timeline, of any lifetime, of any sequence of steps is to get to a holistic awareness of, like, wow, this is beautiful. So systems are glorious. Systems are amazing. They transcend time and space. Systems are a whole set of parts functioning together. So, for example, your body. Your body is a system. And your body, you can study something about it in a sequential way, like the digestive system. Okay, very linear. I'm going to eat some food. It's going to go down here through my stomach, my intestines, nutrients, and then the gut bacteria and, like, all this stuff. It's amazing. But you realize that whole time that you're tracing that linear process, the whole body is running simultaneously. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? It's all simultaneous. So any process in a belief system, in a reality, is to get to a state of more glorious appreciation and awareness of the total system. Bliss, ecstasy, that's what it feels like to really come into your awareness of the transcendent, eternal, infinite system of which you are a part. So it's really kind of like the blind man and the elephant. Remember that metaphor of, like, you know, all these blind men, they're touching different parts of the elephant. So the guy who's like holding the feet, the legs, says like, an elephant is a tree. And the one who's holding the trunk says, the elephant is a snake. And the one who holds the tail says, the elephant is some string, some twine, whatever. Or the one who's holding the ears says, the elephant is giant, like palm leaves or something. It just let it be all part of one picture. And it's an endless journey to learn how life fits beautifully together. You're guided by your soul, which is the universe that you are. So let's see, the data points I like to mention, I talk about more in the other video. There's life between lives. That's when people hypnotically regress into their past life. And then Dr. Michael Newton pioneered the approach of, like, well, standard hypnotic past life regression is to go through the death of that past life and discover, oh, that's why I have a phobia about water, because I drowned in a lifetime. But I died, it's over with. Oh, I can let it go. So standard reincarnation is very linear. It's very much like, you know, that life is dead and gone. Thank goodness I can get rid of all my phobias, dump it on that. Okay, so that version of sequential reincarnation, frankly, that's not true either. Okay, so just as the Christian approach of, like, you only have one life, you die, you wait until the ground until you're resurrected in some way, Jesus comes for you, and then you'll live forever in a glorious new body in heaven. That is the astral plane. That is the afterlife. Okay, it's an energetic world. You tap into it with your emotions, actually. And this energetic world, that's where you go when you dream at night. When you disconnect a bit from your physical body, but your mind is still active, you go into dreams in the astral plane, otherwise known as the emotional plane, and the emotional world. And the lower levels of the astral plane are people who are dead, who have a lot of troubled emotions. So they can look like hells and purgatories. But there aren't any demons torturing people. It's just people kind of mulling over, lost in their unresolved emotions. And that's a major reason why people reincarnate. They can't get any higher in the astral plane. But if you've done all your homework, you know, your work to go home, if you've done all your homework and resolved your emotions and live a really good life, you can pretty quickly move up through the astral plane to the top levels of the astral plane. There are these beautiful heavenly cities. Every religion and culture has their own city, their own place in the astral plane, in the afterlife. And this is the basis of all the heavens. And yes, you can visit, you know, these heavens in your dreams, in your lucid dreams. And spirits can come visit you. I mean, the worlds are all coexisting, remember. It's just how we link them in our stories and our chronologies. So in the afterlife, Dr. Michael Newton, he got the idea of, like, well, let's hypnotically regress people, not just to their death and then wake them up and say, hey, your phobia is gone. That life is over and done with. Now let's regress them into the afterlife and ask them what the afterlife is like. And so he called it destiny of souls. I would call it destiny of spirits. Your soul is a bigger concept. But remarkably consistent stories came back of what the afterlife is like. It's a place where people continue to learn. They're much more energy focused, principles of the universe focused. They're much more able to manifest things that they need when they need it. But there's still communities of people learning how to work together cooperatively and increase love. It's all about love. It's all about the caring and kindness for each other that maximize life, that grow the fun of being alive together. So another data point is near-death experiences. Fascinating that people can die and be medically revived and have amazing stories of going into the afterlife. And at first, scientists wanted to say, well, that's just your dying brain coming up with a last gasp story to save itself. But then there are stories of people who they can actually describe, I floated up out of my body and I saw the doctor saying this, doing this. And the doctors are like, yeah, you were comatose on the table. You were out. How could you know that? Well, because I was floating above you. I was a spirit. It's like, look, this spiritual life, it's a part of daily life. We need to integrate it. That's the point of the ascension. Become a human being who works well with your spiritual self, and your spiritual self is always expanding in the direction of your soul, learning more about how the universe works, and your human self is expanding into working with the earth, with the nature spirits, how wonderful it is to be incarnated in this beautiful garden planet. So, the point is that in the afterlife, even people who have near-death experiences and they come back, they usually come back quite reluctantly. They meet their spirit guides, they have some kind of life review, and that's the basis of the idea of a last judgment. It's a life review. You have it when you die, you can have it any time. You're just reviewing your energy. You're collecting all your energy. See, people who are really mean in this lifetime and they want to think, yeah, I'm the bully. I run things. Other people suffer. They're going to find out it's their energy. You're always filling your own bathtub. In the life review, in the afterlife, you check out all your energy, all the effect you had on people. But you can also check that anytime and clean up your energy. Do the shadow work, as Carl Jung called it, or the dark night of the soul. It's basically like working through some of the stuff that you kind of pushed under the rug, swept it under the rug, but the rug gets really lumpy. So you want to do some inventory and collect that. Well, people who have near-death experiences, they come back and they still don't really want to come back to Earth. They don't, just because they died and they see how amazing the universe really is and how much love there really is behind the scenes for us, they don't understand their belief systems, that we're still here to master our belief systems. Once you master the beliefs, and you can have a negative belief and realize, oh, that makes me feel bad, so that's not true. The belief is telling me that I'm a loser. People who believe with that belief tell me I'm a loser. I'm sorry, that belief is a loser. And people who believe that belief, you're not losers, but you're currently losing. The only thing that's making you a failure is the belief that the beliefs that are failures, the beliefs that don't work for you. So near-death experiencers, they don't really have the whole picture. The people who were hypnotically regressed into the afterlife by Dr. Michael Newton, they didn't necessarily have all the answers. What happens is, in the astral plane, spirits continue to learn. You're basically yourself. You've got a new glorious body. There you go with the idea of the resurrection, getting a new body. You learn as much as you can. At some point, people hit their limits and they need to reincarnate, have another lifetime of their soul. But really, all time is simultaneous. So people who are in the astral plane who understand that, they can go even higher into the mental plane and higher planes, where basically you learn more and more that everything is concurrent and simultaneous. So when I tapped into my past life, and then the more after that, it wasn't past. It's like, she and I are friends. She's a Christian theologian. It explained my life. She gave me hope that, all these mystical experiences I've been having, it goes somewhere. She was very successful. She was encouraging me, like, Carl, go for it. Put it together. So your other lifetimes, your other selves exist all here right now. You are influencing each other, talking to each other. And hey, if you wanted to get rid of a phobia by just, blaming it on a past life and saying that past life is over and dead, sorry. Now you have a friend who has another angle on the same fear. The two of you can work together. What would you rather have? Would you rather be like this one person who sequentially reincarnated, but I'm the only one and I got to solve everything myself? Or would you rather be in a family of your soul, all these concurrent lifetimes that are like siblings, and you get to be, interlinking and working together and influencing other and comparing, what was it like in the 1800s? It's like here now and this and that. And that's the strength of a soul. A soul is more of your greater being who has enough of the larger context where everything connects. Remember, it's negativity that fights out the wrong and the right, the true and the false. It's positive energy that keeps building a bigger and bigger context for everything to be true. So it is concurrent lifetimes, and when you're ready, you simply can relate to another lifetime. So you can sequentially go through it, and I die, I have my afterlife review, I hang out in the astral plane, in the emotional plane for a while, learn lessons until it's time to go back for another lifetime. That's traditional reincarnation. And then, but really it's concurrent lifetimes, so you understand that you're learning at any time to be able to connect with other lives. Then you become a soul family. You're all working together. So let me I've said enough about this. That's the basic framework here of what's really happening. And then you start to see how different theologies, different religions, different belief systems, they're just picking one part of it, one part of the elephant. But let it all fit together. So the fact that I was so hurt to find out that Christians in general did not want to hear that I was reincarnated, even if I was a hero of theirs, even if I was somebody that they admire in history, they didn't want to hear that soul is back. I'm like, come on, it's the same soul. It's like, I have the same concerns updated for this current age. Wouldn't you love to talk about the soul that's behind, talk with the soul that's behind your hero, and be able to compare? I mean, they're, like I said, they're like siblings. I'm not exactly entirely my other lives. They're not exactly entirely me, but we're so matching, we're so connecting. It'd be wonderful, but Christians didn't want to talk about it. Other religions would want to talk about it more. Not that everyone who's Buddhist or Hindu believes in reincarnation. There are different degrees of experience with this. But so Christianity, reincarnation. So in 553 AD, Second Council of Constantinople, they decided reincarnation has no place in the Christian church. And it was about this idea that if you have just one lifetime, you'll take it seriously. If you had all these lifetimes, you might get confused and overwhelmed and just mess around and not take it seriously that this church right now is telling you what to do. In fact, it works the other way around. If you only have one life, you tend to be overwhelmed and give up. And if you have many lives, you realize, I'm going to keep making the same mistake over and over. I got to really solve this. I got to really get to the bottom of this. So the fact that there's very little in the Bible that's against reincarnation, nothing really. People often point to Hebrews 9:27, and it is appointed for men to die once, and after this comes the judgment. Well, like I said, that's just that you die, you go into the afterlife, you have your life review. It's not even getting to the idea of you've learned a lot in the afterlife and you're ready for a new life. There's a whole thing about, some people like to say that Jesus talked about reincarnation with Elijah, that he suggested that John the Baptist is Elijah. And the language is a little ambiguous. It could go either way, that he was talking metaphorically, that he's playing the role of Elijah, or that he really is the reincarnation of Elijah who was to come before the Christ that Jesus is fulfilling. But people who are really anti-reincarnation, they have their own reasons for wanting to shut that out. So don't argue with them so much. One of the things they say is that, well, Elijah also showed up, that some disciples were able to see Jesus talking to Elijah. And so if Elijah's there as a spirit, and Moses too, if there's as spirits, they can't also be reincarnated. Well, yes, they can, because your greater being has many, many parts of you. You are here, you are there, keep learning to work with more parts of yourself. Cycle back and forth between the human incarnated perspective and the spiritual, larger, discarnate perspective, and keep them close together. Love yourself, care about your human life. That's the road to the self-love, which is not selfish, which is not selfless. It's simply caring about yourself, being maximally accepting of yourself, and then good enough, nice enough to others. So there's really nothing in the Bible that's for or against reincarnation. It was decided later to be against reincarnation. The early Gnostics were definitely into reincarnation, as well as simply aligning their consciousness. They would channel the Bible characters and bring through more information. But that was a little too loose and happy for the church, so they cracked down on a lot of that stuff. As far as Jesus, the fact that he died and he resurrected, but he didn't stay resurrected, right? I mean, it's not like he resurrected and he raised from the dead Lazarus. And there isn't really a record of what happened to Lazarus, but presumably he was a pretty dramatic case of near-death experience, and that he came back and he probably had wonderful tales of the afterlife to tell, and he lived out a wonderful life. So Jesus, and also many people think of Jesus as some kind of failure, that he got himself killed. A true savior would lead us to battle and victory over our enemies. Well, you're just in a lot of negativity there. You're cancel culture, trying to get rid of things that you don't understand. Why don't you focus on what you do understand? Focus on what you love, and then the rest of it will fall into place. If you only focus on getting rid of the bad stuff, you'll never be done getting rid of the bad stuff. So Jesus died, but he died willingly. He was fulfilling a prophecy, and also he was showing that your free will matters. You can kill your connection to your own soul if you want. This wonderful, amazing being comes along, Jesus. He talks about how to have a basic unconditional love for everyone and everything. And it wasn't about becoming a sucker, like, oh, now I have to get along with everyone, even, turn the other cheek until they kill me kind of thing. No, there's a whole aspect to Jesus's teachings which are not well understood, not emphasized. Jesus was teaching the separating of realities. He was teaching the multiverse. So let me get into that in a second. But the point is that he died willingly, and he wanted to show that people have mastery over their own life. If you choose to kill a great teacher, there's no revenge on you. God will not punish you. You will simply have missed out on the opportunity to have made your life so much better. And then Jesus resurrects. Literally, he did, to show that hey, the joke's on them. He's the one that's got eternal life. All these other people who killed Jesus, they're just going to die, and then really hate themselves in the afterlife. It's so Jesus resurrected. He visited all the disciples, including the female disciples. Mary Magdalene was the first to see him. She was a female disciple. And then he ascends into heaven. He isn't just going to hang out. Okay, so all of the Christian idea that you should just die and wait in the ground until you're resurrected and given a new body, and maybe Jesus comes back and rules for 1,000 years, or all these different kinds of mythologies. And I'm not trying to diss all the ecstatic visions or revelations, but it's just that these things can be very, very symbolic, very dreamlike, and people take them too literally. They get stuck in negativity, which is what's bad, and I got to get rid of that, and the source of evil. The source of evil is simply people trying to survive on false negative beliefs. The ideal is that you hit a false negative belief and it makes you feel bad, and it makes you less able to love. You realize that can't be true. I'm a loving being. I want to be more of who I really am, not fighting for scraps and survival in a false negative beliefs paradigm system. But people hold on to false negative beliefs, and they get more and more survival oriented. They get less and less humane, less and less really feeling their feelings and their empathy, more vicious, trying to materialistically, amass wealth and power and maximize their footprint in this world, and hope that there's no other world after this where they have to meet up with all their energy and have a life review. People become very atheistic, nihilistic, and materialistic, and that is the negative ego. That's the devil. The devil, religion is just early psychology. All the qualities of the devil, being a pathological liar, always trying to steal things from cheat people, and making promises that'll never come true. That's also in psychology the narcissist, or that's in spiritual psychology the negative ego. Your ego is your human self, which will remain wonderful and positive as long as you respond to it. Hey, your human self, is feeling really scared. like feel that, realize that that's your priority, and step back into your spiritual perspective and do something. Get some spiritual guidance to change some beliefs to improve your life. Don't go down the path of dehumanizing yourself, becoming numb and desensitized, and becoming more and more of that negative ego. So that's the perspective that Jesus did go ascend back into. He went into the astral plane, into the afterlife, where he greets people. A lot of people who have near-death experiences, as well as mystical experiences. I've met Jesus. I didn't die. I didn't have a near-death experience. It was a very intense, amazing vision. I asked for it, and he came. You can, all time is simultaneous. All the great beings, all the minds, they're all there. Just maybe your current chronological story doesn't include them. But you can become a spiritual human. Your human self, as it adopts more and more true beliefs, expansive beliefs, like embracing beliefs that allow for more possibilities, your human being can become more and more spiritual. You can live in both worlds. You can be that creator in the creation. That's the goal of the ascension, so that you don't have to die to go to heaven, and you don't have to wait in the ground until you're resurrected. So let's see. I want to wrap this up. I didn't want to go too long on this. Definitely didn't want to go into the personal stories. The point of what did I want to talk about? The idea of Jesus and the multiverse. Yes. So this is very important. So to me, basic teachings are that he's teaching you, align yourself with the unconditional love of the universe. Pray for your enemy. Wish harm to no one. Don't judge, don't condemn. You can have what you could call value judgments, where you figure out what's good for you, but the condemning, punishing judgments where you're absolutely wrong, nobody should be that way, it's not good for me, so it has to be not good for anyone else. That's the kind of judgments Jesus is saying, don't judge, because you're going to be judged. It's going to be your own energy. You're going to be in your own filth. But another major teaching of Jesus was allowing the worlds to separate. And this is where people don't understand. They think that that being loving means you have to embrace everybody and keep turning the other cheek until you're killed, and going around with a kick me sign, kick me, I'm Christian, I love you, and you hate me. And no. Jesus very clearly taught, the meek will inherit the earth. The meek will inherit a different earth. The meek is a different kind of person. Jesus taught that the realities will split. It's a multiverse. There are different realities. The more you align yourself with the background unconditional love of the universe, the more that universe can take you to a better world. You let go of the people. He said, somebody tried to trick him with a coin. He said, this coin has Caesar's face on it. Who should you give it to? And they're trying to trick him into, saying you shouldn't pay taxes or something. And he said, give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar, give to God what belongs to God. What he's really saying there is, let the materialist realm be what it is, let the spiritual be what it is, and you choose, you decide which way to go. More clearly, I love the line, let the dead bury the dead. There was this guy who, he said, Jesus, you're awesome. I want to follow you. But first, I've got to stay and finish a family funeral. Can you just wait? And Jesus said, let the dead bury the dead. Come follow me now. So in that case, he was advising that person, your relatives, your family, you don't belong with them. They're dead to you. They're not interested in the teachings of eternal life like you are. Come follow your passion. Come follow your dream. Come follow your soul is telling you to follow Jesus. Go with them. Let go of the people that you don't belong with anymore. Don't try to make people agree with you. Don't try to make there be world peace. Let there be world peace by letting people go. You don't chase after them to convert them. You don't run away to hide from them. You simply figure out, let your divine guidance keep you safe, pray for everyone, and let them go. So a really interesting passage that that many people can't make sense of because they think of Jesus, well, Jesus is the peacemaker. He's going to make everybody choose peace. Everybody should regret having killed him. Someday everybody's going to realize there should be world peace. Like, don't wait for that someday. Reality is always meant to have a range of people, a range of options. There will always be people who agree with you and people who disagree with you. That's why you want to refine your energy away from good and evil battles into more the good versus better, where we don't agree, but we agree to have a loving, peaceful planet. So in Matthew 10, verses 34 to 36, Jesus said, "Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. I have come to set a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law." What the heck? So what he's saying is it's the sword of truth, the dividing. He hasn't come to bring peace. He's come to teach you, if you want to work with the real universe, the real source of life, you're going to have this unconditional love, acceptance. You're going to wish harm to nobody, but then you're going to experience those you don't belong with anymore. And it's not going to be, neighbor and enemy across, nations. People are too used to tribes fighting each other. Within your own tribe, within your own family, the son against father, the daughter against mother, within your own family, you're going to find there are people, you came into this life for certain lessons and you don't belong to stay with them. Let them go. So Jesus is teaching this idea of the multiverse, of the splitting of realities. So I think that's about all I wanted to say in this shorter version. I don't wonder how long this is, but definitely not as long as the 2-hour one where I go into details about my actual past lives and the concurrent lives, the lives that I work with and talk with. And all kinds of theory and more details. But I like this. I like this presentation. I wanted to help people like me. You can get really stuck on the hurt of people who simply have very different belief systems. And if you have a clarity of how everything can fit together, you won't be so stuck on trying to convince them and convert them, get them to appreciate you. You can appreciate yourself. You can turn more to your soul, your higher self, the source, to Jesus, to other ascended masters, many beings, friendly ETs, angels, interdimensionals, nature spirits. I mean, there's so many beings. It's such a wonderful, fantastic, lush, fertile, amazing universe full of friends. Let's drop the old stuff. Let's learn the basic lessons of Jesus and move on to be the meek who inherit the earth. Have a wonderful world, a wonderful life that materializes around you, because reality is not that solid. When you get good at letting people come in and out of your life, learning the lessons, taking the messages, staying with the people that you have good parallel paths with, you grow together, but letting the people that you grow apart from, let them go. Reality can shift and change very quickly. It's not a solid world out there. Don't try to control it. Learn to let your own higher self, who already made great decisions for you, guide you so that the natural control system of the universe, which is very fair and loving, can work in your favor. And you can have a wonderful, wonderful life, and things can heal and change faster than you imagined. Thank you.